Hello, welcome to Fanteam Focus. The lads are back. It's a Saturday morning. We're going to talk Fanteam. We're joined today by Callum and Luke FPL Irons. Lads, how are we doing?
Very well, mate. Very well, thank you.
Yeah, doing very, very well. Thank you very much, mate. Weather's not great, but life in it.
I haven't even looked out the window, if I'm being honest with you, this morning yet. Good. So just to let you guys know who are watching, what's coming up, we got absolutely loads coming up. We're obviously talking about the championship main event mainly. Weekly Monster, very new to me, but the boys are all over it. Luke is a championship expert. I use the quotation things because it's not a great word to use, but there we are. We'll look heavily into it, like fixtures. We'll look into the teams. We got four players, which we'll get Luke's opinions on specifically. We'll do team reveals. So Luke's team, obviously, Callum's team, my team. We'll talk a little bit about the promoted players into the Premier League from last season's championship. So the standout players from each team kind of thing. And that's pretty much it. We'll go from there. So, Callum, what have you been up to, mate? Have you been up to any scouting missions or anything this week?
Always scouting missions, Reese. You know me by now. So again, Spurs watch 2 minutes. We have our little 2 minute segment. It's been a better week on the Spurs front. My gems of wisdom this week. So Matt Doherty still get rid. Worst player I've seen at Spurs in a long, long, long time. Secondly, I said last week Kane will start game week one. I want to now retract that statement. I am still 99% sure he will stay at the club. But yeah, he's not starting, is he? So it's guaranteed now to be the front four of Bergwijn, Lucas, Ali and Kane. I said last week Lucas is my little gem. I'm sticking with that. Scored again against Chelsea. Looked good again. Dele Ali literally got made to look like a 6-year-old by Kante. So Ali's out the window. And Romero's in. Christian Romero's in, who I've been told by lots of people who are avid watchers of Serie A. He won Serie A Defender of the Year last year. It still scares me that he'll probably start the season with Eric Dyer next to him, but it's more positive. It's more positive, Reece. So I'm still on the Lucas Moura bandwagon, and my final gem this week is Ollie Skip at 4.5 million. I'm pretty sure is going to start at least the first couple of games. So he was brilliant last year. He's been so good in the friendlies as well. Like, he genuinely is way above his age. So Ollie Skip is a little 4.5 million that I am 99% sure will start at least the first couple of games. And if he plays well, who knows? So there you go. There's my Spurs gem of the week.
Well, that's a good segue into hand over to Luke because we know Oliver Skip was obviously in the championship last season. Luke, is that correct?
Yeah, and he was very, very good. I was shocked Tottenham let him go last summer, to be honest. And just, in my opinion, Ollie Skip is levels above Harry Winks, and they're very similar players. You know, they're meant to be the metronomes in midfield, and Ollie Skip is just a level way above, which is why I'm quite worried for Norwich this year because he was one of their better players along with Buendia.
Interesting. So, guys, if you didn't know who Luke is, I'm sure you do, he's at FPL Irons over on Twitter. He had a really good season last year in the championship FPL game. I think it's called Gaffer. Luke, tell us a little bit about your fantasy history in general and your love of the championship, if you would, please, sir.
Yeah, well, I started playing fantasy football actually not too long ago. My boss at work was bigging himself up, saying he was going to batter everyone in the office. So I thought I'll give this a go. And within in that time, I've come 30k and then 15k when I've taken it seriously to try and beat him. And then joined Twitter and I had no idea any of these other games existed. So I got involved in Scottish fantasy football, Championship fantasy football, Champman fantasy football based on a simulated game, and ended up streaming about it. And yeah, in the Champman one, I came 12th and 4th in 2 seasons out of about 3,000 players. And in the Championship game, I came 9th last season. I think there was about 8 or 9,000 players, so I was quite happy with that. But to be honest, I think I came 9th purely because there was only about 50 people that played it throughout the whole season. So I may not be as clever as I think I am.
Oh, that's what did you find different then about the championship game? Are there any like huge differences between that and the official FPL game, for example?
Well, to be honest, the obvious difference is the fact that, as people will see as we talk through the odds today, anyone can beat anyone in this league, and that's the problem, especially in week one. Whereas obviously when you make your FPL team, you know, I'll load up on United players, Liverpool players, Man City players, Chelsea players. They're good teams. Last year, Derby were predicted to get automatic promotion or at least playoffs, and on the final day of the season, they were fighting for their lives. And Barnsley were predicted to come second bottom, I think, and ended up fifth and making the playoffs. So you can put a team together thinking that your team's amazing and you've got all the best teams, and all of a sudden, by the end of the season, the teams you thought were fantastic at the start of the year are actually in relegation scraps or mid-table. So it's a lot more difficult to predict.
Yeah, I like you said about the odds. I was doing a little bit of research for the show last night, looking at some of the odds, and I found that it seems very, very close, or at least the bookies have not a lot of margin in between chances for clean sheets and anytime goal scorers, for example, which is what I was looking at.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough league to predict, especially, as I say, the bookies must be having a nightmare in the first week, because there'll be some teams here, some of the teams they've got as outsiders, people that have got a bit more insider knowledge will go, wow, they're great odds. I'll put 10 quid on that, and they'll absolutely fleece them.
So we got 4 players here, 4 championship players, which our good friend Joe has made graphics for. I'll bring them up one at a time. Callum, I'm going to go to Callum first and just ask if you know who they are, because I
was going to say, don't expect any high quality analysis.
I'm sure the knowledge out there as well of the championship is quite low, and it's no slight on the competition itself. It's just, do you know what I mean? It's just the reality of it. So we'll go to player 1, Callum, Nick Powell. Do you know Nick Powell?
Yeah, Nick Powell's one of those, isn't he? That he was like one of the highest rated like youngsters before. Because when he was at United, it was almost like, oh yeah, Nick Powell. And I think it was at Wigan that he went to and had a really good season.
I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's been one of those that he's been blighted by injuries off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure that's what's kind of killed his career as such. But certainly last year, every time that anyone kind of spoke about anything in the Championship, Nick Powell was always sort of spoken as that guy that's got way too much quality for the league. And obviously Stoke don't have the best reputation in terms of playing football and playing football the right way, but he certainly seems to have, you know, the quality that's needed in the Championship. Because I watched the first game last night, the Bournemouth West Brom game. It was really good, and West Brom, I was massively impressed by them. I think they'll be pretty much shoo-ins to be playoffs at the minimum. And it kind of made me realize actually that the quality's very high, but you almost just need. The big difference between the Championship and the Prem is that the Championship, people just make wrong decisions far too often, whereas in the Prem, it needs to be, you know, you only get one chance, you only get 2 chances. But Nick Powell seems to have that quality of, you know what, I've played at the very, very top level, and, you know, you don't play for Man United. I'm not sure how many appearances he made, probably very minimal, but, you know, you don't play for those sort of teams unless you're a top player. So, you know, we can see their sort of 12 goals last year in a Stoke team that I can't remember where they finished, but they were pretty woeful off the top of my head. And 3 assists. So he's someone that is looking like a talisman. And, you know, the only thing that I'd say is probably when we're looking at this monster is that people will not have a lot of knowledge and therefore could go, oh, I've heard of Nick Powell, I'm going to throw Nick Powell straight in. So that's the only thing that would probably put me slightly off, but I'm pretty sure he's in my team anyway.
I agree with you 100% about the point of picking players you've heard of, because I picked my team last night, and like I said, I looked at some odds and I tried to pick players based on that, and then it got to a point where I needed to fill a couple of gaps, and I found myself just like, oh, haven't heard of him, so he must be no good. But in reality, I haven't heard of like 75% of them probably.
Yeah, exactly that.
Luke, did you manage to see much of Nick Powell last season?
Yeah, he's a hell of a player for Stoke. As you say, massive talisman for them. I think they could be in and around the playoffs this year. They're going to look to be solid defensively, and then they rely heavily on Nick Powell going forward. So he's a good player to get in your team for sure. But 9.7 million is one of the premiums. I think he might even be the most expensive midfielder, or certainly one of this week. But in a team that are so defensive, as you can see there from his stats last year, 12 goals, he was very, very good. But I can't see him being a 20-goal-a-season man or 25-goal-a-season man. So are you going to get those braces that make that 9.7 million worthwhile I'm not so sure. And as you say, he'll also be highly owned by a lot of people. So I think there'll be better punts to have a go on around the league elsewhere.
It's a lot of money, yeah, certainly 9.7 million for Nick Powell. I remember him from Football Manager. Used to be a bit of a bright prospect in that game, has obviously since fell off the radar a little bit. Bit of Jesse Lingard syndrome. I still think of him as like a young player, but he's probably 30, you know? So, number 2, Callum, have you heard of Clark Harris?
No, straight on to Luke.
Go on, Luke.
Yeah, no, he had a very, very good season last year in League One. Peterborough came second. He scored 31 goals. Was very, very impressive for them. But that's what Peterborough are about. They're always a team that are looking to score goals, especially under a Darren Ferguson. I think they scored 87 goals last season. They scored a lot of goals anyway, a hell of a lot of goals. It's a difficult one. You look at a player. It's very similar to Ivan Toney coming up to the Premier League. Can he perform at that level? I think Clark Harris has only ever been at Championship level for Rotherham a few years ago, and I don't think he ever scored more than 10 in a season for them in a fair few games. So it's about seeing whether that player can do it at this level. I'm not 100% sure, but he is in the right team to do that. Peterborough will be looking to score goals. He's going to be on penalties. Are they going to get as many penalties in the Championship? Probably not. So he's going to need to perform in open play. Is he 7.3 million?
Yeah, 7.3.
It's decent. It's one to punt on, but I've seen a lot of people touting Luton to have a good season. Look, people are saying that Luton could be in and around the playoffs. So Luton away, first day of the season, 7.3 million. It might be worth a punt. I'm not so sure. I'm not going to have him in my team.
Yeah, interesting that you mentioned the penalties there, because I've never heard of Clark Harris, but just looking at the numbers there, 0.76 goal involvements per 90 minutes looks high, but then obviously that looks like it includes penalties as well. And like you said, if they were, I'm assuming they were in League One last season and they kind of came first, second or third. So if they were like the best team in League One, they would probably like kind of imagine Liverpool in the Premier League playing high up the pitch, getting fouls and penalties. Is it going to be the same in the Championship? Probably not. So you could see that number reduce from 0.76 certainly. Okay, player number 3, Ilyas Char. Let's go straight to Luke this time because I don't know. Go on, Callum. Do you know him?
I've got a quote here that I found earlier when I was doing my research. You ready? From Mark Warburton, not from Mark Warburton, sorry. So he was on loan at Stevenage a couple of years ago.
Nice.
Scored 6 goals in 16 appearances. And the manager said he is the best player that's ever worn the Stevenage shirt. That's not much of a big praise, but as well as the best player to have ever played in League Two. So it seems like he was a bit of a nobody until he went on that loan, and then he's come back. And certainly last year for QPR, he was pretty much one of their key players. His stats for last year are crazy. So he played 45 games, which in the Championship is, no mean feat to stay fit for the whole time. So kind of 8 goals is there for pretty sure he kind of plays as a bit of a midfielder. Is he a midfielder? Yeah, a bit of a midfielder. So high praise. That's about all I've got for you. I've done my research there, Reece.
Good one. Yeah. Listen, I apologise for that one, Callum. I didn't expect you to pull that one out of the bag. Some great knowledge. I don't know who he is. Luke, tell us more.
Yeah, well, as Callum says, since he went on that loan to Stevenage, he's played more than 40 games in the past 2 seasons. I think this one's more of a wait and see for me based on the lineups that we get at 2:00. So QPR have Austin and Dykes up front, who obviously played for Scotland in the Euros. If they play 2 up top, then he's less of an impact because they'll be playing like a 4-4-2 or a 3-5-2 where he's floating about. Where they play the 3-4-3, and he'll play in behind Austin or Dykes with Willock as well. He's so good in that position. If you remember a few years ago when Chelsea played the 3-4-3 and you kind of had Hazard floating in behind Costa, and Hazard probably had one of his best ever seasons, just floating around doing what you want, giving complete freedom. That's kind of what Elias Chair does in the Championship for QPR. He's one of these players that can do absolutely everything. Low centre of gravity, very, very good on the ball, can pick out a pass, looks to get crosses in. I think this could be a very, very good season for him. And if he does perform to the level that he can, QPR could be in and around the promotion push or playoff push for sure.
Wow, that's high praise indeed. Eden Hazard, the next Eden Hazard. You heard it here first.
Not quite. Championship Eden Hazard.
Okay, last player on the list now today then is Tommy Smith, and I'll put it straight out there. I've not heard of Tommy Smith either, I don't think. Callum?
Yeah, I've heard of him, but I don't know enough to talk about him. I'm very much on this stream to just listen to Luke, so pass straight on to him.
Go on, Luke.
Yeah, he's just a classic Championship fullback. He played for Huddersfield Town. You might remember him from Huddersfield. He went up.
I recognise him. Yeah.
There's so many Tommy Smiths about. There's been about 20 Tommy Smiths in the past 20 years in the Championship. So he's just a solid Championship right back. Now playing for Stoke. He has a little bit of license to go forward. Their fullbacks don't bomb on in the same way you think of a modern day fullback. They will look to keep clean sheets. Stoke had the second lowest expected goals against last season. So they do have solid foundations to build on. If they do want to get promotion, it'll be purely based on their defensive prowess. So for me, I like the fact that he's at a decent price. I think 7.8 is decent. They're playing against Reading, who have lost a lot of key players. Obviously, Elise's gone to Palace. One of their fullbacks that used to bomb on has gone to Bayern Munich, Omar Richards, which is absolutely madness. So Reading have lost a lot of good players, not really brought anyone in. Stoke are already quite well known for their defensive ability. So I personally will definitely be doubling up on them.
Are Stoke still a long ball team, Luke? I know they obviously have a reputation, but they got a new manager recently, didn't they? Or maybe back into last year. Have they changed at all, or is it still very much up to the long man and win everything off the flicks?
It's not Tony Pulis. It's not Tony Pulis. I think most teams in the Championship have an element of that. There's very few Championship sides that don't have a big man. So Stoke have got Stephen Fletcher, and last year they had Sam Vokes as well. So they had those options if they did want to punt it. But, you know, with players like Nick Powell, they do have a few more technicians, and they used to. They will play the ball slightly better than they did a few years ago. But I certainly wouldn't say they're Barcelona. That's for sure.
So that was the last of our 4 highlighted Championship players. We're going to have a look at the fixtures next. But before we do that, I just want to ask you guys, if you are watching live, if you could hit the like button, we would really appreciate that. Hit subscribe if you're new and you want more Fanteam content. There's plenty coming out on this channel, and obviously on the website. You can find all the links in the video description for that. Okay, so fixtures. Luke, as our resident expert here, is there one fixture or 2 fixtures that really stand out to you from a fantasy perspective in terms of, I really want their attackers or I really want their defenders?
Yeah, well, the obvious one is Derby against Huddersfield. Derby are in an absolute mess. Obviously, they had major issues over the summer. They overspent, and they're now not allowed to, based on EFL restrictions, they're only allowed to sign free agents, and they can only sign loanees of up to 6 months. I think yesterday they brought in Richard Stearman and Allsop, a goalkeeper, but they're certainly not top championship level these days, and they were already struggling last year. So they've lost a lot of major players. A lot of major players have left the club. Waghorn, Ibe, Wisdom, Malone have all left. Bought in very little. They're struggling. Wayne Rooney is not a top manager at all. Really, really poor. So for me, it's all about this Huddersfield team. Once we get the lineup at 2:00, whoever's playing up front, but the one I'm hoping for, I've currently got Koroma in my team, who probably will play off the left. If Jordan Rhodes is playing, he'll be on penalties, and he's a poacher. So if he's playing, I think he'll definitely be nailed in my side.
Callum, what do you think? Are there any fixtures that stand out to you here? Is there like a home team that you think really nailed on or anything like that?
Yeah, there's one actually from reading Luke's blog yesterday, actually, because again, if you haven't watched it, not watched it, if you haven't read it, go on to fanteamfocus.com, and I think it's the latest article at the minute, the top championship picks. And it was the fact about the Preston Hull game. Now, I always see Preston as, and don't get me wrong, I don't follow the championship a lot, but whenever I see the league or whenever I watch a game, Preston is such like a steady team that are always just, bang mid-table, there or thereabouts. They know how to win games. They're never pretty. And, as Luke put in his blog, Hull have pretty much got the same defence as they had in their last championship campaign, yet they're actually just 2 years older and still probably just as bad. So obviously, they've gone up last year, which is good for them. But newly promoted sides, we never know how they're going to react. And I just feel like Preston are that kind of team that, they've been there, they've done it. They've been in the league for a while now. I just think they'll have a bit too much for Hull. And obviously, again, we'll look at players later. But again, kind of Luke put Sinclair in there, and obviously again Scott Sinclair is one of those players that it's difficult because you want to pick him, but everyone that doesn't have a lot of knowledge will go, oh, Scott Sinclair, he's played for Celtic, I know about him, I'll put him in. So that's kind of a big dilemma this week in terms of actually, do those known players as such, do you try and avoid them? But yeah, I think certainly that Preston Hull game, Hull kind of coming up, and Preston been there, done it, know what's going on. Obviously we do know Scott Sinclair has got quality, he's playing in the Champions League and he's kind of their big player. So yeah, that fixture stands out quite nicely for me.
Interesting to hear you talk about Scott Sinclair, because he is the one player that kind of stood out to me as well, as someone who doesn't watch a lot of Championship football. You see him and you think, oh, yeah, I know him. He's a kind of inside forward. He could surely get a goal. But I did a bit of research. I looked into the bookies odds, and I got these all from Odds Checker and aggregated them out into a spreadsheet. I know there may be some mistakes in there, but I hope there isn't. And Scott Sinclair didn't come on there at all, which surprised me. I mean, I've cut it off here at 30%. So you've got anytime goal scorers on the left and clean sheet odds on the right. I cut it off at 30% just to make the table look clean. There were a lot of players came in 29 and 28%, etc. And I'm sure Scott Sinclair may have probably been on there. But it's interesting, that point, like you said, where availability, if people know who a player is, they'll probably pick him, and he may not necessarily be the correct pick. Anything, Callum, that jumps out to you with the bookies odds?
Yeah, well, obviously you've got Adam Armstrong there at the top, but I'm pretty sure he's not going to play, is he? I'm sure Luke may change me if I'm wrong there, but he's certainly been linked away to pretty much lots of teams recently. So I'm not actually sure Armstrong is going to be playing, and that's kind of why, again, when we come to the teams later, Swansea as cheap picks, kind of, that they've tempted me in, because obviously with Blackburn, it kind of Harvey Elliott last year as well, he was pretty much at the forefront of pretty much everything good they did. That Armstrong there at 43% surprises me. I guess they're saying that if he does play, obviously he's got a big chance, but I'm not sure that he will play. So that's quite a big one that I'm not quite sure should be there. And Charlie Austin's another one that just scores goals for fun. Like wherever he goes, wherever he plays, he's someone that just knows where the back of the net is. So again, that at 33% kind of tempts me a little bit. And then, Nikki Wells again. He was one that was touted for like big things, weren't he? Who was he at before? That was when he was going to get a big move. Luke, you remember?
Oh, he's been all over. He ended up just being a journeyman, unfortunately. Yeah. As you say, he came up. I think he may have been in and around the Premier League with Huddersfield, but then it never really materialised for it. He went to Burnley for a bit again in the Premier League, and they didn't really play him. So he ended up. It didn't really go through, unfortunately. It's just Championship.
I think it was before that Burnley movie. It was one of those. It was Nikki Wells, like one of the up and coming players, up and coming strikers. So he's one potentially, could he finally come of age again? He's another one that we say is a youngster. He's probably the best part of 26, 27, 28 now. So certainly not a spring chicken. But yeah, if I was looking at that, like I said, the Armstrong one is, and that kind of whole Blackburn kind of situation against Swansea today is an interesting one to see come the lineups. Obviously, most people have the pleasure today of being able to see the lineups at 2:00. Unfortunately, I'm playing football, so I'm going to have to take a little bit of a risk and a punt, and hence why I've had to go with slightly higher price players and, fall back on the safety net if they're not there. So I'm at a slight disadvantage, and I'm going to blame it all on the fact that I don't see the lineups if I don't cash today, because I'm going to be out. But yeah, that Armstrong Blackburn one, I think, is something of interest to look at, certainly when the lineups come out.
Well, I've gone Armstrong. Luke, is he going to start? Obviously, these odds are assuming that the player starts. So if Armstrong doesn't start, he'll knock straight down like the bottom of this list. So yeah, that's got me worried. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it will change my team massively. I think if Armstrong's playing, then I'll definitely have him in my team. If he's not playing, I'll probably go for a couple of Swansea defenders. Armstrong was ridiculous last season. He had 189 shots on goal in 46 games. I think he beat anyone in the league by about 50 shots. Just an unbelievable footballer. 28 goals at this level, which is crazy. And he's been linked with every single bottom half Premier League club you can think of. I've seen him linked with Southampton, Burnley, Norwich, Palace. Everybody wants him. So you can see he's got quality. I am worried that his head has been turned and therefore won't be playing. But if he's not playing, they as Callum said, they've lost Harvey Elliott. He was so important to them last season. Blackburn were one of the highest scoring teams in the league, and that was due to Armstrong and Harvey Elliott. So with both of them out today, I think I'd probably back Swansea, who had one of the better defences last year. They only conceded 39 goals in 46 games and kept 20 clean sheets. So Blackburn's two main attackers out. Swansea defence and their wing back Jake Bidwell is 5.6 million this week, and I think he got 8 assists last season and a goal. So 5.6 million. If you fancy them to get a clean sheet without Armstrong in the team, he's a good bargain, that's for sure.
The only thing with Swansea, Luke, just quickly, that they only appointed Russell Martin this week, didn't they? So have they even had a friendly? I don't even know. Is this his first game today, or have they had a friendly midweek? I'm not sure. But how much do you think that's going to be? You know, it's a new manager. Are they going to get the new manager bounce, or is it going to be, we literally don't know what you want from us?
My assumption would be, just based on my knowledge of football, I think if you come in that late, I think you kind of have to stick with what the previous manager did to a degree, don't you? You know, Swansea were playing a 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3. If he now comes in and goes, all right, we're playing a 4-4-2, we're going to lump the ball into the box without a target man, it's not really going to work, is it? So my assumption would be he's going to stick to the plan of what happened last year, and a lot of the better players will still be in and around the team. But as I say, well, I get the bonus, you don't, being at football, but 2 p.m, those lineups are going to come out. If all of a sudden Swansea are playing a 4-4-2 or something they were nowhere near last season, back Blackburn, whoever's playing, even if they've got Big Dave from the pub up front, get him in against Swansea.
So we get the team news before the deadline, then that could be crucial for people's teams, right? Just to go and expand a little bit on the Swansea point that you guys were making about continuity. As the resident Welsh guy, I followed a little bit of Swansea in the background. It's kind of what the chairman has done. I'm assuming they've still got the same chairman, I think it was Hugh Edwards. It's kind of what he has done throughout the past 10 or 20 years with Brendan Rodgers and the Spanish guy he appointed and stuff. He's kind of appointed managers who play the same kind of style, so there is that continuity. Whether he's still doing that, I don't know, but it'd be interesting to see. Okay, do hit a like on the video, guys, if you're watching live. Subscribe if you are new. We're going to get into Luke's team reveal right now. Luke, tell us a little bit about your team, and if for the audio listeners you could read the players out, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, so at the moment I've gone for a triple up of Bristol City, who are at home to Blackpool. I've got their goalkeeper Bentley, their fullback De Silva, and their striker Nikki Wells. I've also gone for a triple up at Stoke at home to Reading, who I've gone for Timon, Bath and Powell in midfield. Double up for Huddersfield, Toffolo at the back and Koroma up front. Koroma is my captain and Toffolo is my vice. Currently got Bidwell at Swansea and Lowe at Swansea, and then punted on Sinclair from Preston. He is my only Preston man, but that is a couple of triple ups, couple of double ups, and then a rogue Scott Sinclair shout.
Callum, what do you think?
Have you got any money in the bank there, Luke, or have you used the whole lot?
I've got a little bit, but I'm not going to lie to you. When I see those lineups at 2, that team will probably be decimated.
So talk to me about, because one thing that we get questions on constantly is you know, do you double up? Do you go aggressive? Do you triple up? Do you play, you know, random people here, there, and everywhere? So we can see, obviously, you've got 2 Stoke defenders, 2 Bristol City defenders, and then obviously you've got a Swansea and a Huddersfield. Is it something that you always look to go down the route of, you know, I want the scorer and the assister, or I want the 2 defenders as a clean sheet? Obviously, now we're back into monsters. Obviously, we've got the stacking penalty comes into play. So if anyone that's not aware of that, if you have more than 1 defender or goalkeeper from one team, you lose 1 point for the second player. If you have a third one, you lose 2 points, etc., etc. So obviously that's something also to take into account. But is it something that you, whenever you're looking at building a team, certainly on the Monster, are you always looking for those kind of double up, treble up, and then kind of, like you said, the rogue Scott Sinclair?
Yeah. So when I've made my teams in the past, I tend to always play a 5 at the back and go for a double up for 3 different teams. The week I had my best, I think I made about £100 last year on one of the monsters from, I think it was only £2 or something like that. I ended up getting all 3 of the clean sheets that I needed and ended up with a lot of points at the back. And then I believe my captain did well as well. So it's one of those things where at the end of the day, the chances of you getting 6 clean sheets if you play 6 different defenders in your back 5 and goalkeeper, it's highly unlikely. Whereas doubling up on 3, the odds are a hell of a lot more in your favour. Of course, you've also got to add in the fact that some of these players can get attack and return. So all of those there are fullbacks, apart from Danny Bath, who is about 6'6" and can head a ball into the net. So, you know, we might get lucky on that one. But yeah, the rest of them can get an assist along with some clean sheets. So you do, of course, have to look for attacking potential as well. It's why when you do your Premier League monsters, throw in Trent and Robertson, because even if they don't get a clean sheet, they might get a goal or an assist or something to that degree. And for me, the attackers are just they're punts on decent fixtures and players that have proven they can do it in this league before. I'm not going to go for the likes of Clark Harris because I'm not quite sure what he's about yet. Whereas Karoma, Wells, Lowe have all proved that they're championship quality. Sinclair and Powell are probably way above that level or have been in the past. So the team is solid. It may well change. I may take a few punts when I see the teams at 2 o'clock. You know, the positive we do have is there may well be a Huddersfield striker that comes in out of nowhere that's priced at 7 million, and then you might as well just shove him in. So this is based on who I think will play, but there may be some bargains that emerge, and then you can upgrade your team a hell of a lot more.
And then in terms of your captaincy option, what goes through your head there? Are you looking for who here has got the biggest ceiling and you're going well aggressive rather than going for a safe pick?
Yeah, I'll always go for the aggressive one. So I played in one of the satellites last year. It was Liverpool versus Manchester United when Liverpool won 4-2 at the end of last season. And I thought to myself, everyone's going to go Salah, everyone's going to go Trent, everyone's going to go Bruno. What should I do? I went for Bobby Firmino, who hadn't scored a goal in about 6 years, and he managed to score a brace. So all of a sudden, purely because I'd gone for the aggressive captain that no other idiot had done, because why on earth would you captain Bobby Firmino? I ended up coming second in that and winning about £80 off £2. So for me, I will always go for the aggressive play. Karoma is somebody that I think he scored 8 goals last season in the Championship, but he had a hamstring injury for 6 months. So he scored 8 goals in 15 games. So for a casual that goes and looks at his stats, they may not think he's that great, but actually he's a good player when he plays. And against this Derby side, he is the one player that I looked at and I thought he could score a hat-trick today.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way you've always got to play it.
100%.
Interesting. You mentioned the penalty points there, Callum. As someone new to Fanteam myself, this was something I only kind of, I think I read about it before, but I only kind of saw the detail on it last night after I picked 3 Stoke defenders in my team. So I spent about 20 minutes trying to get the third one out.
Yeah, it is very much a case of you don't really want to go any more than 2 defenders / keeper from one team. You can deal with a -1, but I'm not sure you kind of want to throw a -2 in there for a triple up. So certainly you'll see any kind of monsters. Obviously, you haven't got to worry about it in the season longs because it's not a thing. But certainly in the monsters, you'll never really see a team that does well with more than kind of 2 defenders from the same team. You can deal with a -1 stacking penalty because, like Luke said, the likelihood of you picking, for example, in this team 6 clean sheets from 6 different teams is pretty much non-existent. So yeah, the -1 is certainly the most that I would ever be willing to take. I wouldn't ever really want to triple it up.
It's interesting, I think, like the maths behind that, because you would think that they're all separate events, wouldn't you? You got 1 game, 2 game, 3 games, and the clean, if they're all like 50% chance of a clean sheet, then they're all 50% chance. But then, like you said, the likelihood that you're actually going to get them all correct. It'd be interesting to get maybe like a mathematician on one week and just kind of talk about that, because I'm not clever enough to kind of figure these things out.
That's why certainly the single games and the pursuit games, I just can't get on with them because I find it's such a maths equation as well as your football that it's just too much for me. And, the fancy team are going down pursuit route, and obviously that, they'll go down what works for them. But that's why I don't know how many single games anyone's played, but I just can't get on with them because it's all like, oh, he's worth this many bonus points. Plus I've got to take into account this stacking penalty and this +1 for this and that and the other. And it just becomes a maths game. So that's why certainly the single games I stay away from. But yeah, in the monsters like these, it's something that you have to take into account, but you very, very rarely see any triple ups.
I can help you with the maths side of things. Let's say every team does have a 50% chance of a clean sheet. If you go for 6 defenders from 3 teams, you've got a 12.5% chance of 3 clean sheets. Whereas if you go for 6 different, it'll be 1.875%. So you've got 6 times more chance of getting your full clean sheets as opposed to if you go for 6 different.
I suppose then, and this is just like a light bulb's gone off in my head, I suppose it's kind of like an accumulator, isn't it? Because
in essence, yeah.
When you play an accumulator, your odds just go up exponentially almost, don't they?
You're taking a punt on 3 as opposed to 6. And, if you've ever put an accumulator together, if you put a 3-team accumulator on, you're hell of a lot more likely to win. Whereas when you go and put, when you're 18, you went to put a quid on 20 teams thinking you were going to become a millionaire. That never came in. It never came in.
I'll be sticking my both teams to score a racker on today across the league. Don't you worry.
It makes sense to me now, actually. Yeah, thanks, Luke. Callum, this is your team. Do you want to talk us through it?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've had to go slightly more. I say safe in a safe route of. I don't have the privilege of the lineup, so I'm at a disadvantage there pretty much straight away. But there's a few obviously high-end options, and then you get a few players in there that you just have to look at what price you've got left and think, right, where's the potential upside to this? So there's a few players in there that are not particularly exciting players. When we look at certain like Matt Grimes in the middle for Swansea, I've obviously gone with Bidwell and the keeper from Swansea, so I'm kind of relying on a clean sheet there. If a clean sheet doesn't happen, I'm not going to score well. So I'm kind of putting in Grimes there as the fact that he's a 90-minute man. Obviously, we talked about this before, that if he's playing 90 minutes, that's 3 points straight away. Plus, I'm banking on the Swansea clean sheet anyway, which will give me another point. So even though he's something like 6 points something million, I hadn't had any money left, so he fit that quite nicely. I'm looking at hopefully a 4 point there, and obviously, if he gets a shot on target, I'm looking at 4.4, or it might be 0.5, I think, for a midfielder shot on target. So you have to kind of think about these things in Fanteam. It's not as simple as just throwing things together, but if my keeper and defender pays off, then that Grimes, all right, it's not an exciting pick. I don't expect him really to get an attack in return. But if those 2 at the back score well, then he's looking at a 4-pointer as well, because he pretty much plays 90 every week. So that's why he's in there. My other kind of rogue, I will go through the team in a second. My other kind of rogue is Nagy there. Nagy, however you do it. Again, I'm looking at 90 minutes and I'm looking at a clean sheet. They've got Blackpool, which I don't think are any great shapes. I know Bristol City are not in a particularly good shape anyway, but yeah, so Nagy, he's another one that, I'm looking at. He's a 90-minute man, and if he's getting a clean sheet also, again, I'm looking at 4 points. So even though from those 2, players that don't look exciting, I'm still looking in my head thinking, there's 2 4-pointers there. So that's kind of a big difference between that and FPL in those terms. So I've got Bender in goal for Swansea, again with Bidwell, after, again, reading Luke's article, and I'll plug it again. If you haven't read it, go on fanteamfocus.com. Lots of information there that is helpful. I then paired I've gone 3-5-2. So my other 2 defenders are Morrison and Flint at the back for Cardiff. Morrison's more a fun pick. Just the fact that any time I see Cardiff, all I ever see them do is a massively long throw, and Morrison seems to win every flick on. So he's in there as a bit of a punt. I think last season he got 5 goals and 2 assists, which is a centre half. Like I said, he's the main target man from any set piece, and we know again Cardiff are pretty much renowned as being a bit of a set piece team as well. And Mick McCarthy had them in great form at the back end of last year, certainly. They picked up a lot of form. So Morrison there with the hope of a clean sheet and hopefully a goal. And Aidan Flint again, was it, Luke, I might be wrong, was it Bristol City where he basically played up front?
Yes, yeah, and he became a bit of a viral sensation. Bristol City started doing those gifs whenever a player scored.
Yeah.
He had some really good ones. I think he had one where he burst 2 beer cans over his own face, sort of thing. It was very good, yeah. And he was always scoring goals for them. Yeah,
that's what I mean. So I'm not expecting him to play up front for Cardiff, but I love someone that knows where the back of the net is. So they're both kind of goal threats, and as Jorgs put in the chat there, they're both goal threats for Cardiff. That I like the clean sheet potential. Plus, I like the fact that they both know where the back of the net is. So I've actually got here Flint for Bristol City and 1 City. He got 8 goals, and I know he was playing in fact, he got 8 goals, then 5 goals the following season, then 6 goals the following season. So he certainly scores goals. So that's my back 4. Then said I've got Nagy and Grimes in the middle, and then my other 3 midfielders. Again, we've got Scott Sinclair. We spoke about him already, and then I've got my 2 double ups. So I've got Bakuna, who's currently got the captain's armband on. But again, we haven't actually spoken about it yet. Obviously, there's slight rumours of a Huddersfield COVID outbreak, which is why their odds have kind of gone from massively odds on to being pretty much, level with Derby with the bookies. So Huddersfield's one that I'm not going to have the luxury, but I'm just going to go with it. And obviously, if those 2 have COVID, thankfully, they're the 2 most expensive, I think, in both positions. So I've got the safety net there. I'm not going to have not a player playing. That's probably not the right term, but you know what I mean. And then Nick Powell and Fletcher, again, with Tyler spoke about Reading have had a pretty poor kind of transition. Like we said, they've lost their 2 best players from last year. So, we spoke about Nick Powell already, and Stephen Fletcher's another one that has been around the block and scores goals and knows where the back of the net is. So, kind of going with the 3-5-2. I like the 5 midfielders because, like I said, it gives you that point for a clean sheet as well. Huddersfield could get a clean sheet, which gives Bakuna an extra point. Obviously, with my captaincy would be 2 points. Nick Powell, Stoke could quite easily get a clean sheet. So I like the 5 in midfield, and hopefully I've picked 90-minute men there as much as possible as well. So this is the way I'm going. Like I said, if I was seeing team sheets, it would probably change my mind later on, but this is what I'm gonna have to go with, and hope that the safety net gods fall in my favour.
Like it a lot, Callum. Luke, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a really solid team, and as you say, given that you don't have that luxury, I think you picked a team that is logical and makes complete sense, to be honest. You picked a lot of players there that are going to play. So that's all you can really do. And I like the Swansea Cardiff defence there. I think I might have a team with a little bit of Cardiff in. Barnsley have certainly. I think that they're going to have a far worse season than they did last year. They've lost a lot of their attacking threats as well. So
so I'll tell you what I saw. So like I said, I don't know if you saw the game last night, but obviously Alex Mowatt's gone across to West Brom, and again he was so good. And it's almost like, and obviously it's the manager as well that's gone there as well, hasn't he? So that they've lost the manager and their key player, and I'm a bit like, let's hope that I'm not sure if they've replaced them. I don't think they've made many signings. So that's one that I'm kind of hoping of.
Yeah.
Just quickly as well, lads, we haven't touched on this. I meant to do this at the top of the show as well. What's your strategy? I know, Callum, we were speaking in the week and you were talking about entering multiple teams. Have you nailed that down yet?
Yeah, so for this week, again, purely because I'm not there, I've literally just done the 1 team for this week. Because obviously my knowledge for Championship is not as high as the Premier League. And B, obviously I'm not there to check lineups. So this week I've just done the £8.60 entry, which I am thanking Fanteam because they've said the Premier League monsters are going to be that price point as well, which is so much better than last year, because a £1.80 to an £18 jump is quite a lot. So now it's back at the £10 or the £8 mark, whatever it is, which means I will always do 1 team in the middle price bracket and then 5 in the lower one, because that gives me, then I'm looking at roughly 20 quid a week, which is something that I'm happy to spend. And then it gives me I'll put my most confident team obviously in the higher one, and then in the lower entry, I think it's £1.80. obviously I've pretty much got 5 entries in for the price in my middle one, and I'm normally confident that I'll be able to get one of those in a half decent cash to basically cover my costs for the weekend. And obviously that's without the really big cash that obviously hopefully we've always got the potential to do. So certainly my strategy going forward this year, certainly in the Prem weekly monsters, will be 1 in the middle, 5 in the lower price, which gives me 20 quid a week, and it gives me that chance to go, my highest, my aggressive one kind of in the higher price, and then the lower one to kind of try different things. But yeah, for this week, literally this is my only entry purely because I'm not here and my knowledge is not as high in the Premier League. And it's so easy on Fanteam to get dragged into entering everything when you see all the different contests on there. You're like, yeah, I'll throw one in there, throw it in there. So I need to be a little bit more stringent this year. But yeah, that's the way I'm going to go forward, certainly from next week.
Sensible, I think. Very sensible. I've done similar for different reasons. I've gone for one team, the £8 kind of middle entry, purely because this is my first ever Fanteam entry. I'm still learning the game. And again, like you, my knowledge of the championship is so low that I've just kind of I basically picked my team from the bookies odds research that I did last night. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Luke, you've obviously got a bit more experience and eye tests behind you in terms of the football in this competition. Is your strategy slightly different?
I've got 2 of the mid range tickets. I think personally I'll probably go very similar, 5-2-3 each time, or 5-3-2 each time, and go for the 3 defences each time, and hope I get a couple of clean sheets. We'll see what happens, but to be honest, I was quite disappointed. I thought the pricing was absolutely spot on. I was hoping, given that this was their first time they'd done it, I was thinking they might price some of these players up really badly. Give us Adam Armstrong for 6 million, or the Huddersfield boys really cheap. But no, they to be fair, they've absolutely smashed it with the pricing, which is a shame for someone like me, because I was hoping I could kind of use my expertise to make a bit of cash, but unfortunately it looks like they know what they're doing.
There we are then. We'll move on to my team then, and as I say, I'm fully waiting for the feedback from Luke on this, because he's got so much more experience in terms of watching games than myself. So it's purely picked off from a desk last night. So here it goes. I got Smithies in goal from Cardiff. And I apologise for my pronunciation actually, because I'm not going to be able to pronounce some of these names. Nyambe from Blackburn at the back. Dickey and Barbet at the back as well, who I think both scored in the recent friendly that they played, which was a bit interesting to me because they're both defenders. I think it was like a 3-3 draw with Bolton, I think. And then you got Bath and Timon. So this is a double Stoke defence. Looking at the odds against Stoke, I think were, if not top, very close to top for likelihood of a clean sheet. I did have 3 until I learned about the penalty thing that we were speaking about earlier. So I downgraded that to 2. Again, I think Bath scored in the most recent friendly. So I did check all the most recent games that I could on Google. And it's quite hard, isn't it, to find this information. It's not as easy as it is for the Premier League. So I think Bath scored recently. Timon is someone I know from Football Manager, like a fullback who, I don't know if he's still young, but he was young and kind of promising. So he's gone in there because of that, and because of obviously the Stoke clean sheet thing. Is it Wilkes in centre midfield I've gone for there? I think he came on my chance of anytime goal scoring list, which I did, I think. And then I've gone for Arnie Dimner, who I know from my Wickham Wonder Kids save in Football Manager, and he was actually quite good. He wasn't a really young chap, but he's a winger, and he seemed like he was good enough to maybe go to a Premier League club. But hey, that's just based on Football Manager. He didn't come into any of the numbers I looked into. But Luton do look like they got a good chance in that game. Then I've gone for Armstrong, who we spoke about at length. Then I've gone for Wells and Jerome. I need a lot of help. Luke, what does the red thing next to Jerome's name or next to Luton mean? Is that got any significance? Because I couldn't figure out what that meant.
So that just means that they don't currently think he's going to play, but that will change.
I thought that might be what it is.
You'll see it 2 o'clock. So if he's starting, then he's a good pick. If not, they've got a striker called Adebayo who did very, very well for them at the back end of last season. So that's an easy swap for you. Just swap him out for the striker that is playing. But outside of that, I really don't think you've done a bad job there, considering you're saying your championship knowledge isn't that great and it's your first ever Fanteam team. I think you've done a very good job. Wilkes is a good pick. If you back Hull against Preston, Wilkes scored 19 goals last season in League One. So he's a good player and a very good pick. And I like the QPR double up as well. Millwall aren't always the best team attacking wise. So yeah, and Armstrong, you can't go against Armstrong if you're starting. So it's a good team, honestly.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've gone for the Armstrong captain as well. Callum, what's the deal with captains and vice captains in Fanteam compared to FPL? It's slightly different, isn't it?
Yeah, so on kind of the monsters, your vice captain is purely there to obviously replace your captain if he doesn't start, so he doesn't get any extra points. And then obviously your captain is looking at double points. Obviously, like we said before, there's none of this bonus points rubbish. But obviously, what you're looking for in a striker is, like we said before, if you can get a 90-minute striker, you're looking at you're 1 point to start and you're 1 point for 60, you're 1 point for the 90. And then obviously now that Fanteam have added the 0.4 for a striker for shots on target, you're also looking at someone, who's going to be busy. When Luke, as you said, he got like 100 and something shots last year. So certainly that falls into your favour. And like we said, as soon as you get a talisman that's kind of the be all and end all, if they're so valuable in Fanteam, because like we said, if you're 5 players there, your 2 midfielders and your 3 strikers all play 90, you're looking at an extra 5 points, which is, an extra goal for a striker in your team. So I think it's so underrated and so undervalued in terms of making sure you've got your captaincy on a 90-minute man. And obviously someone that's got a big potential in terms of shots on target, in terms of obviously, getting attacking returns. So yeah, the thing you have to think about with your captain is you don't want your captain going off after kind of 70 minutes. Obviously, you miss out on that key extra 2 points if you captain them for kind of playing the 90. But yeah, certainly with, the shots on target from Armstrong, I don't think you can go far wrong there.
Cool. And I think my key takeaway from today is actually just at 2:00, be like, and unfortunately Callum's got commitments, he can't do this, but if you can, be there at 2:00 for those team sheets, because there's the window then for you to change, Luke, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the best thing this season about these. Well, they're not monsters, but in essence they are. The fact that all 8 games are at 3:00, it solves one of your cravings, which is being able to sit there and watch Gillette Soccer Saturday and enjoy the games. And also the fact you've got a full hour to prepare and put your team together. I think that's really useful. And also by 5:00, if you're going to win money or not. If you're doing well or you're doing badly. So I think this is such a fun game to get involved in, because I think we're all missing Gillette Soccer Saturday when there were 3, 4, 5 Premier League games going on at once. So this you can go back and enjoy that, and also try and win a bit of cash, which we all enjoy doing that with our weekend accumulators, don't you? This is just a different way of getting involved.
So we've got 5 minutes left, guys. We're going to get Luke's quick fire thoughts on the 3 promoted players that we consider to be the best into the Premier League, if that makes sense. So we got Watford, Norwich and Brentford. 5 minutes. Luke, first up, Ivan Toney. Tell me a little bit about him.
Yeah, simple one, to be honest. He's a talisman. Everything that they're involved in, he's there. 31 goals, 10 assists. I think he was involved in 51% of their goals last season. So if they score 45, 50 goals in the Premier League, you're looking at maybe 20 returns, which is fantastic value for what he is in. I think he's only 6 million in the Fanteam game across the season. So he's nailed in my team.
Did you see his conference yesterday where he said like, "Oh, what's your targets for Brentford for the season?" And he was like, "Win the Premier League." And he was like, if you can't aim higher, then what's the point in being in it? So that, like I said, I say I know Ivan. I used to know him for many a year, obviously playing with him and against him, but he's always had that mentality, and I think that just proves it. Like, he's literally going in, he wants to be top goal scorer and he wants to win the league with Brentford, and it's a bit like that's the way he is. Like, he genuinely will believe that in his head as well. Like, he's not just saying that for media press. Like, he will genuinely thinking, yeah, we're going to win the league. So yeah, I have no doubts in my mind he will be a massive success.
That's the kind of thing you want to hear from your like fantasy asset, isn't it? Like you hear Bruno Fernandes talking about goals and assists and stuff like that, and you're like, yeah, come on, let's go. Yeah. Luke, Pookie, will you be getting your ticket to the Pookie party this season?
At some point, yeah, definitely. He's a good player, but the start is dreadful. So wait and see. Watch Norwich at the start and see what happens. They've got Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Leicester. Watch them for the first 4, see how they look, and then move on to him down the line.
I think I agree with that. His price means that it's so easy to do in at 6 million. Yeah. I mean, with in FPL I'm talking about now, I'm not 100% sure about his price in Fanteam, but with Ivan Toney at 6.5 and Pookie at 6, you can kind of move from one to the other after, like you say, watching the difficult fixtures there. Callum, what do you think about Ismail Sarr? Have you seen much Watford?
Yeah, Watford's almost my second team. My uncle has got a season ticket down there, so he's not raved about a Watford player as highly as Sarr, as probably as in my lifetime, kind of knowing him. They just love him to bits. He's got pace, he's got energy. He's obviously dribbles past people for fun. He scored goals. You know, again, that was kind of the risk. Was it going to be that he's going to struggle? He's had that Premier League season under his belt. He's now had a full Championship season under his belt. He's not that youngster anymore. Obviously, I think they signed him for the best part of 30 million off the top of my head. So it's not like he was a nobody that's just come out of nowhere. Like he's a big name. So Sarri is pretty much, if Watford are going to stay up, they need him. They need him to play as well as they did last year, going forward this year, because he everything good goes through Sarr, and he's a massive handful. So certainly, like I said, I've got an absolute Watford mad uncle and cousin, and I've not heard them rave about a player as much. I mean, that probably doesn't say a lot. Watford haven't had the best players in the past, but yeah, they absolutely adore him. So he's certainly one to watch.
Luke, I can see you nodding away there. Looks like you agree with Callum and his uncle there.
Yeah, cannot disagree at all. But he's a wait and see for me, because I need to see if they're playing a 4-3-3. If they're playing a 4-3-3, then he's fantastic value. 4-4-2, not quite so much.
Wicked, guys. That's it for today. That is us. Just remains for me to say thank you for watching. Do hit the like and subscribe buttons, especially if you're new. There's lots coming out across this channel and over on the website. Callum, what have we got coming up this week across the Fanteam Focus world?
Yeah, so we are obviously 1 week away now from the Premier League season starting, which means our content goes up. So we have got the first of our big kind of things. We've got the Fanteam Focus Cup, which starts, the first round draw will be on Sunday. So anyone that is not yet in there, go onto our Discord. You can find the link on Twitter and just comment in on the Fanteam Focus Cup channel. It's just a straight knockout. It is completely free to enter, apart from you may have to pay like 30p to get into the little mini league. I don't know what the cheapest we can charge is something along those lines. And it's a straight knockout each week with massive prizes to be won. We are just confirming the prizes now. They will be announced before they start. So that'll be a straight knockout each week on the monster. Obviously score more points than your opponent, go through, get less points, then obviously you go straight out. So that's obviously coming up this week, which is exciting. We've also still got our big referral leaderboard where we're giving away £2,000. So all you have to do is refer one person using our link, which is in the description here, or in our Discord, or on Twitter. And that gets you involved in the leaderboard, where again you can try and earn points throughout the season, and first prize is £1,000. So again, for free entry and just for referring one of your mates to come and get involved, it's a pretty nice promotion. So those are kind of our two big promotions, and obviously we'll be looking at more podcasts, obviously more streams. This stream may be next Friday. Obviously it depends on you, Reese. It may be next Friday. If not, it will be Saturday morning as normal. But again, just look out on Twitter, look out on the website, because like we said before, the more help that we get, the more traction we get, the more that we can give away to the community, which is what we want.
Cheers, Callum. Yeah, just on Callum's point there, I've got to try and, if we want to do a Friday night stream, I've got to try and get my missus to swap his shifts in work. Otherwise, we're going to be back on Saturday mornings. So, Luke, thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, you've been a massive help. I don't think me and Callum could have done this show without you.
No.
No, not a problem. Thanks very much for having me, boys.
Where can the people find you?
I'm not that interesting. Find me on Twitter, FPL Lions. No, don't worry about it. If you don't want to follow me, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. It could be Friday, it could be Saturday, but follow us across the socials. We'll keep you informed. Thanks again for watching, and guys, thanks for coming on. See you later.